It's time for another bite-sized coding time with the Port Moody Public Library. Thank you so much for joining me again today. We are going to continue on our drawing adventure in Scratch. Now, if you haven't done any drawing in Scratch yet, please take a look at our video last week so you can take a look at the basic tools that Scratch has available when you want to draw and create your own sprite. We're going to build on those skills today and explore some other tools that are available to us. So let's take a look. Now, we want to do something a little more complex this week. We want to draw like a sprite that, maybe a little more complicated than what we did last week. So you will see in the background here that I have what we wanted to try to draw today, and it is an owl. I love owls, so let's do an owl. So what we're going to do is to create a new sprite. Going to the bottom right corner, click on the paintbrush. And here I am going to try to draw this owl. Now, we introduced you last week to the brush tool, to the line tool, to the rectangle tool, the circle tool, and also the eraser tool, right? Those are all some of the basic tools that you have to do any drawing. So if I look at this owl, it being kind of a irregular shape, let's maybe try using the brush tool and see how that goes. So I'm going to click on the brush tool here, and I'm going to try to pick some sort of brownish color here for my owl, like that. Okay, and let's get drawing. Okay, so I'm going to try to draw it, and I'm just using the trackpad on my computer to try to draw this owl. Now, as we pointed out last week, when you're trying to use the brush tool and using a trackpad or a mouse, it doesn't look very smooth. You can see the lines are kind of jaggedy. It doesn't look very good, but it may be the style that you're going for. So with this out here, and then you can see, well, because the brush tool only does an outline, like instead of having to go and color all of this in, because that would take a while, you can actually use another tool that we didn't talk about last week, which is the fill tool. Think of this as like a paint bucket. You just click on it and then you splash paint into a shape. So if I move the paint bucket over to my shape, the minute I touch my shape, you can see I can actually fill the whole thing with brown. So I click on it to commit, and now I have a shape that is the owl body. However, the tricky part about the brush tool sometimes is that when you are drawing, say, especially if you're doing something a little more complicated, when you're drawing this brush tool, sometimes when you are not careful, it might not work very well. Now, if I try to use the brush tool, the fill tool this time, you can see no matter where I click, it doesn't work. And the reason why it is, you may notice, is that I have a gap here. And whenever you have a gap in your drawing, the lines are not connecting. Scratch doesn't know that this is a complete shape. It still thinks that it is two different bits. And so the bucket cannot fill any shape that is not complete. So it won't work. So it's a little trickier to do with the brush tool. And also it doesn't look like perfect. So instead of using that, we're going to try a new tool today, which is the Reshape tool, and you can find that right next to the select tool is this one right here. Now, as the name suggests, reshape, meaning that you're going to try to change the shape of something, right? And so before you can change the shape of something, you have to have something for it to change. So we have to put down a shape first, and you know how to do that because last week we showed you that there are two different shape tools in Scratch. We have the circle tool and the rectangle tool, right? So let's start with a basic oval, just a basic oval, and then we will see how that works. So I'm going to click on the oval here. I'm going to give it a black outline, just like my reference drawing here, and I'm just going to do an oval like that. All right, so that's my body, but of course this doesn't match this at all. So we have to change the shape of this oval to make it match. And how do I do that? Well, with your Reshape tool selected, click on the shape that you want to select. And when you click on it, you'll notice that there's all these points around the outline. And those are the points that you can click and drag to change the shape. So if I click on the top points right here, you see now I have some align some sort of handles that is sticking out. I'm going to talk about those handles in a second, but what we're going to do is we're going to try to push this down so that it looks more like the shape on the owl's head right here. So I'm going to click and I am going to drag, and you can see the point that you select is the only one that moves, like, so you can move it any way you like, and all the other 3 points stay where they are. But what I'm going to do is try to move it down here a little bit, like maybe like that. Okay, so now I have the top of the head. I'm going to move it up. And now I'm going to stretch out his body a little bit. So I'm going to click on the bottom one and I'm going to stretch it out so it is taller. But you look at it and you're like, well, but it's so like skinny at the bottom. It should be more round. It should indeed. So this is where those handles come in. Think of these handles at both ends here as sort of like magnets, right? If I drag a magnet out here, it's going to pull this line towards the magnet. It's going to want to follow it. So you can see if I drag it out farther, it's going to want to go farther and farther to the right like this, right? So by moving this handle, I can actually change the shape from like a little bit more kind of pointy to round. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And now you can see I have more of like an owl shape, like the one that I have in my picture. Another option, if you don't want to play with those handles, is that you can actually add more points so that you can reshape it. So you can see originally the oval come with 4 points, but I can add more. I just have to click anywhere on the outline and then I will add a point to it. And once I have a point, I can now click and drag and shape it. Right? So 2 different ways you can do this. So now I have an owl body, so let's add some wings. I'm going to click on the oval again to start with an oval, just a basic oval. Click on the Reshape tool and I'm going to reshape it so that it makes it look more like a wing. Now I need another one on the other side, but I don't want to have to like draw one out again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this. So using the Select tool, click on the thing that you want to make a copy of, select it, and then I'm going to go up here and say copy, and then I'm going to go paste. So now we can see I have 2 copies of this. Move it over to the other side, but it's facing the wrong way. So what I'm going to have to do is to flip it. And when you select the tool, you can see I have options here. So I'm going to flip this horizontally, and now I have 2 wings, 2 identical wings on each side, and I don't have to draw it twice. Alright, so let's do some eyes here. Now the eyes is just basic circle, so I can just choose a white color here. And what I'm going to do is, remember last week we talked about if you want to draw a perfect circle, you have to hold down the Shift key on your keyboard. So that's what I'm going to do so that I can draw 2 perfect circles for eyes. Now I'm going to move it in place. Right. Oh, I don't want that one. Now I've got 2 eyes and then I need some eyeballs. So I'm going to change the color to black. And then I'm going to make some eyeballs. Alright, so eyes done. Now we need the beak. So let's pick the color. So I'm going to do another like yellowish color here. Maybe like something like that. And I'm going to start with a oval again. And now I'm going to have to shape it so that it's more pointed at the bottom. Now, when you have a small part like that, if you want to see better what you're doing, because it's kind of hard to, when you do the reshape, it's kind of hard to grab these tools. So what I'm going to do is to zoom into my picture so I can see better. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the top down a little bit more. Maybe bring these guys in a little bit so it's skinnier. And then this bottom one here, you can see right now it's still a little too round. I want it to be pointed. So what I can do is click on it, click on the bottom one to select it. You can see the handles come out and you know that that's the one you've selected. And when you want to change something from more kind of a round shape to more like a pointed shape, there's a tool right on top here. So I can click on this icon called pointed. And when I click on it, you can see it changes the shape of the points from a curve to a pointed. So again, if I click on it again, click on this point, right? I can change it to curve. I can change it back to curve. But I want this pointed, so I'm going to leave it like that. So now that's my owl beak. Right, so I'm going to go and to do the body. Oh, wrong color. But that's okay because I have this selected. I can change my color now and change it into a lighter color like that. And then maybe move it around a little bit. Make sure you choose the select tool, not like me. Move it around here, okay? And then now we need to draw some of those V on his body. I don't know what they are. I should know, but I don't. Maybe you can let me know what those are. Alright, so draw some V's here. And I'm just using the line tool to help me with this. And they're not very perfect, but it's got character, let's just say. Alright, and then legs is the last bit. So I'm going to increase the size of the lines a little bit. And I'm just going to give him some legs. And you can see with the Reshape tool, you can pretty much draw anything. From basic circles and ovals and rectangles and all of that, you can change the shape from those basic shapes into anything you like. It is just fun to do, I find. So now, look at my owl. I have an owl sprite. So if I go to the code here, you can see on my hand, I have a whole owl sprite that I created myself. So that's pretty cool. Now, what we recommend you to do is to draw your sprite and make it big so that you can see all those details and work on all those details. And then once you have finished and you're happy with it, you can always use this size tool here to change the size of the sprite. So I'm going to make it like maybe 40%. So now I have an owl that I can use for my story or my game. Another advantage of drawing your own sprite is that you can very easily create new costumes. So going back to the costume tab right here, if I want to make this owl fly and flap its wings, what I can do is to go to the top and then on top of the icon for my costume, right click, make a copy by clicking on duplicate. And so now I have two owl costume here. And using this, I'm going to select the wing by clicking on the select tool, select the wing here, and I'm going to rotate it a little bit so it makes it look like it is kind of like flying. Right, maybe even a little bit more. And I'm going to do the same thing over to this side. Move it over here. Okay, so now I have two costumes, one with the wings down, one with the wings up. And what I'm going to do is to go to my code and just add some quick code here. So I need to change costume. I need a green flag. And we need, of course, our favorite forever sandwich. And because computer does things really quickly, if you change costume one after another, I'm not going to be able to see it. So let's give it a break, make it wait. And so now, if I press on the green flag, it should change costume and it will make it look a little bit like my owl is flapping its wings and flying. So you can see how easy it is when you draw your own sprite and how all the different bits are in its own shape that you can reshape. And that makes it really easy for you to create a new costume. So that is how you can use the Reshape tool in Scratch. It is so much fun because you realize that a circle and a rectangle can become so many things. So I hope you had fun doing some reshaping and doing some drawing. And if you have created an amazing sprite, and I know you will, please leave us a comment and put a link to your project so we can take a look at what you have created. So until next time, happy coding, and we'll see you again next week for our coding time. Bye bye!